Before you react to an insult, remember this: the person who controls their response controls the room. Ronald Reagan didn't silence critics with anger, he silenced them with calm confidence and sharp wit. The real power isn't in the comeback, it's in the composure. When someone throws an insult at you, they are not just speaking words, they are revealing themselves. A wise person understands this first. Insults are rarely about truth, they are about insecurity, frustration, or the desire to provoke a reaction. Ronald Reagan once showed the world that strength does not always roar. Sometimes strength smiles. Sometimes it answers with calm humor. Sometimes it refuses to answer at all. A wise man does not rush to defend his ego. He pauses. In that pause, there is power. The average reaction time when someone feels attacked is just a few seconds, but those few seconds decide whether you become a leader or a follower of emotion. Reagan understood this deeply. When critics attacked him harshly during debates, he did not raise his voice. He raised his wit. His famous line during a debate about age, where he joked that he would not exploit his opponent's youth and inexperience, turned a potential weakness into strength. The crowd laughed, tension dissolved, and the insult lost its edge. That is strategy, not accident. The first strategy of a wise man is composure. Silence is not weakness. Silence is control. When insulted, breathe once, twice, even 3 times. A controlled response is always more powerful than a fast reaction. Leadership begins with self-leadership. If you cannot control your temper, you cannot control a room. Reagan believed that peace is not the absence of conflict but the mastery of it. The same applies to words. The second strategy is perspective. An insult is often a small event in a long life. Will this matter in 5 days? 5 months? 5 years? Most likely not. A leader thinks long-term. Reagan faced critics throughout his presidency, yet he kept his vision on economic reform and ending the Cold War. Petty attacks could not distract him because he saw the bigger picture. A wise man understands that not every battle deserves his sword. The third strategy is humor. Humor disarms hostility. When you respond to insult with lightness, you take control of the emotional climate. Humor shows confidence. It signals that you are not threatened. Reagan was known as the great communicator because he could turn tension into laughter. That is not weakness, that is psychological intelligence. When you smile at an insult, you silently say, "Your words do not define me." The fourth strategy is redirection. Instead of attacking back, redirect the conversation to substance. If someone mocks your ability, calmly provide facts. If someone questions your character, demonstrate it through action. Reagan once said that the best argument against a bad idea is a better idea. The same principle applies to personal attacks. Replace noise with clarity. The fifth strategy is restraint. Not every insult needs a response. Sometimes ignoring is the most strategic move. Attention is fuel. When you refuse to fuel negativity, it dies. A wise man understands the value of energy. Energy spent on proving yourself to everyone is energy stolen from your mission. Reagan faced protests and harsh media headlines, yet he focused on policy and purpose. That focus defined his leadership. The sixth strategy is empathy. Often, people who insult are struggling internally. Anger is frequently a mask for fear. When you understand this, you feel less attacked. You see the human weakness behind the harsh words. This does not mean accepting disrespect, it means responding from strength, not wounded pride. Leadership requires emotional maturity. The seventh strategy is boundaries. Being wise does not mean tolerating abuse. Calmly and firmly say, "I prefer respectful conversation." A simple sentence can reset the tone. Reagan negotiated with powerful world leaders, including those with opposing ideologies. Respectful firmness was key. He proved that you can be kind without being soft. The eighth strategy is self-knowledge. Insults hurt most when they touch insecurity. If you know yourself deeply, criticism loses its sting. A leader who understands his strengths and weaknesses cannot be easily shaken. Reagan knew his communication style, his beliefs, and his limitations. That awareness made him steady. The ninth strategy is timing. Responding immediately is not always necessary. Sometimes a delayed response carries more weight. Consider writing instead of speaking. Consider waiting until emotions cool. Strategic timing transforms reaction into intention. The 10th strategy is transformation. Turn insult into fuel. Many leaders faced mockery before achieving greatness. Criticism can sharpen focus. Reagan's policies were controversial, yet he stayed committed to his economic and foreign policy goals. Opposition strengthened his resolve rather than breaking it. A wise man also understands tone. Words spoken calmly carry authority. Volume does not equal power. In fact, studies in communication show that lower, steady tones are often perceived as more confident and trustworthy. Reagan mastered this. He did not shout his leadership, he embodied it. He also understood optimism. Optimism is a shield. When your outlook is hopeful, negativity cannot penetrate easily. Reagan often spoke about the promise of America, about opportunity and freedom. That positivity became contagious. In personal conflict, optimism works the same way. When insulted, answer from a place of belief in yourself and in people's ability to rise higher. Another subtle strategy is detachment. Imagine the insult as a passing cloud. You observe it without absorbing it. Meditation practices teach this skill, and leaders benefit greatly from it. Emotional detachment does not mean indifference, it means awareness without surrender. A wise man asks himself one question: what outcome do I want? Do you want to win the argument or win respect? These are rarely the same. Reagan's debate moments showed that winning respect often required restraint and wit rather than aggression. Leadership is tested not in comfort but in confrontation. Anyone can be polite when praised. True character appears under pressure. Insults are small tests of character. Each response builds or weakens your reputation. Reputation, once formed, influences opportunity, trust, and authority. Another key principle is confidence without arrogance. When you respond calmly, you communicate that your value is not dependent on others' opinions. That silent message is powerful. People naturally gravitate toward those who appear secure. A wise man also chooses environment carefully. If certain individuals consistently insult or disrespect, distance becomes wisdom. Reagan often spoke about choosing advisors and allies carefully. Surrounding yourself with constructive voices strengthens resilience. There is also the strategy of reframing. Instead of hearing, "You are incapable," hear, "I disagree with your approach." This mental shift reduces emotional charge. Often, insults contain distorted feedback. Extract the useful part and discard the rest. Even harsh critics sometimes point to areas of growth. Gratitude can also be a surprising response. Thanking someone calmly for feedback, even when delivered poorly, shifts the dynamic. It demonstrates maturity. It confuses hostility because it refuses to mirror it. Wise leadership recognizes that dignity is non-negotiable. Never lower your standards to match someone else's behavior. When Reagan spoke during challenging moments, his posture, tone, and language reflected dignity. Dignity commands respect more effectively than anger. Finally, understand that insult reveals more about the speaker than the target. Words are mirrors. If someone speaks with bitterness, that bitterness originates within them. Do not carry what does not belong to you. In moments of insult, remember this: control your reaction, and you control the narrative. Stay composed. Choose humor when appropriate. Set boundaries when necessary. Focus on purpose. Transform criticism into growth. Lead yourself first. True wisdom is not proven by how loudly you speak, but by how steadily you stand.